You're not going to want to miss this episode of the AI Show. We talk all about Codex-mini, fast, scalable code generation for the CLI era. Make sure you tune in. Hello, welcome to this episode of the AI Show. We're talking all about Codex-mini, fast, scalable code generation for the CLI era. I've got a couple of friends with me. Why don't you introduce yourselves? We'll start with you, Govind.
Hi, Seth. My name is Govind. I'm part of our global black belt team. I'm a technical director.
If you don't know global black belts at Microsoft, they're awesome. That's all I'm going to say. Make sure if you see one, say hi, and they'll tell you awesome stuff. Ananya, tell us who you are and what you do.
Yeah, hi, Seth. I'm Ananya, and I'm a technical program manager at Azure AI.
Amazing. So let's talk about Codex-mini as a starter. What is Codex-mini, and how should people think about this particular model? Because there's so many different kinds of models. How is this flavor different from the others? What can people do with it?
Yeah, of course. So Codex-mini is a lightweight, fast-responding AI model, and it is great for code generation, debugging, and even for understanding the code snippets. So the reason why it's amazing is because developers often find themselves where they want like a coding assistant, which can help in like creating code, which is low latency and it's very efficient. So yeah, Codex-mini helps in that. And I think Govind can help give us more context over here and show us what it can do.
Absolutely. So just a couple of questions for you, Anya. So basically, Codex-mini is a large language model, but it turns out that the language that it's trained on is not human language. Like, it's code. Is that the right way to think about it?
Yes, so it can create code with natural language prompts. So you can ask it like simple questions and it can create like code bases for it. So you can ask simple questions like create like a Python, like create a website using Python, and it would be able to do that. So it's pretty cool in that way.
All right. So Govind, I feel like I need to see this wizardry in action. Let's share your screen and let's see what we got, okay?
Sure, yeah, let's do it. Do you have any ideas that you want to create, by the way?
Yeah, so I'm thinking, okay, Rhiannon, one of our show producers, we've been talking about how to make maybe a website for the AI show. Do you have any thoughts there?
Yeah, absolutely. So first, before I do that, let me help the viewers how they can get started with Codex-mini on their own, right?
Okay.
So first, and Codex CLI. So the way you interact with Codex-mini is through Codex CLI. And you first need the model deployed. So as Ananya alluded to, you can go to ai.azure.com, go to the models pane here, right? And when you go there, you'll be able to, of course, when it asks for NPS, just hit 10, by the way.
That's right.
And you would deploy your model. It's super easy to do that. You would just select through the model picker, and then once your model is there, as you can see here for me, you can then copy the configuration for that model. So that would be the endpoint and the key. And then you would install Codex CLI. So we actually have a whole blog, and we'll paste it in the chat here. And in this blog, I also kind of cover the pull request that we contributed to. So we work very closely with OpenAI to add support for Azure OpenAI. So once you have that,
so let's pause. Let me ask a question here, Govind, before we get started. Sorry to interrupt. So is the CLI something is the Codex CLI something I need to install separately? How is that done?
Yeah, that's a good question. So yes, so either in Windows you're going to have to use WSL, or in Mac, pick your favorite terminal. In this case, I'm using Warp, and you just need to do brew install Codex. And that's it.
I see. So this is like a legit CLI for interacting with the model. So the model's in the back end. That way we don't have to do REST calls to the actual model. We can just interact via the CLI. Am I getting this right?
That's right. And you do need to configure the CLI to use your model. So here I have this config.toml. Again, that blog has all the things that you need to do. One of which is to set up a Codex CLI to use that Azure OpenAI model that we just deployed, right? So you would, you can kind of see it's very easy to follow, really. I mean, you have your model provider, you have the environment key that you're going to have to pass, and some other configuration options, right?
And
so
I see that there's some MCP.
Yeah,
I'm looking at those MCP servers in there. What is that for it to be able to interact with external services as well?
That's right. So we have we really have more than model weights, right? We have tool integrated reasoners, and Codex-mini is one of those, right? It's a reasoning. It's part of the reasoning family of models, right? So as part of its reasoning sort of process, it can use MCP servers that you configure it with, and in this case, technically, Codex CLI is orchestrating that. And what you see here is our Microsoft Learn MCP server.
Oh.
So exactly. So, when I ask it to create this AI show website, let's say using Azure AI Foundry agent service, it's going to go to learn MCP server and configure it with the latest, SDK usage as
It's
opposed
almost
to.
like it has the ability to look at the MCP, look at the actual learn docs as it builds stuff, which is kind of nice.
Exactly, just like a junior software developer.
Oh my goodness, this is amazing. So I get that. So
Yep.
put the model up, install the
Yep.
CLI, set up do the settings, and you're ready to go. You'll have this in whatever terminal. Warp looks really cool, actually. I'm looking at it, but it would work in whatever terminal you've got going for you in
That's right.
WSL or Mac. Okay, all right.
That's
So let's see this in action. What do we got?
Yeah, so it's as easy as typing codex, and then it opens up this thing, and you have all these slash commands here. You can, initialize this agents.md file, so you can give it more instructions, or you can, create prompts, etc. So in this case, actually, you can, again, as Ananya said, you can ask in natural language, right? So I'm just going to tell it create a new AI show website for Juarez, right?
Yes.
And of course, you would, as humans, spend a lot more time here writing detailed acceptance criteria for what you want. In
And
this
then
case,
if you let's just say you have specific styles and
yeah,
ways of doing it, you would
absolutely.
put that in the agents.md file to give it more context on how to build. Like for example, if I really want Next.js
Yeah,
or I want to use Nuxt.js, or
yeah,
whatever,
whatever.
it
Yeah,
would
whatever.
use
Yeah.
that. Okay,
Actually, I'll show you. So let me start this, and while it's going on, now what you see here is obviously it's a reasoning model, and it's using Responses API behind the scenes, so you can kind of see its thought process as well. And while it's working, let me show you. I went ahead and did it ahead of time, in the interest of time.
okay,
Let me show you the agents.md file that I have here, right? So
okay.
if I were to cat this, you can kind of see how detailed it is, right? So it has kind of what to use for backend. Oops, here, let me just VI. Sometimes with Warp, it gets tricky. So as you can see here, I have kind of like my front end and actually 1 second. I think, let me make sure I'm in the right folder. Show notes, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, as you can see here, I mean, I thought I had more, but you can actually like here describe your front end, etc.
Yeah, and this is cool. Like I'm looking
Right.
at this. Like for me, I love writing like fast API backends, and then I have different front ends. So this is cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Do want to kind of show 1 second. Maybe it's in here as well. And every repo you can kind of configure this agents.md file. So for each, so okay, this is the one I was trying to show.
Cool.
So as you can see here, there's a bunch of guidelines, right? So anyway, with that, let me go ahead and go back to now working with CLI means you have to be really good with your commands.
Yeah.
So this may
But
be
this
a
for me,
prompt.
it's special for me because I'll put our faces up. So because I'm like old school, I love
Yeah,
using the command line. So this is actually really cool.
that's awesome.
I'm a huge fan of it.
That's great. Now this thing on the other pane, as you can see, it's running. It's going to do its thing. Now the good news is we already just had had a run with it,
Uh-huh.
and I'm going to go ahead and show what it did. Again, one shot. We didn't iterate. We didn't really go back and forth. Here's like a quick sort of page, a few episodes,
Oh,
uh, some
tags.
tags. Exactly. I was call them chips. I don't know, but yeah, tags are fine. And here's a chat view, and this is actually built. The backend is built on AI agent service. So if I were to just say hello, it's going to fail, but it's going to fail telling me to hey, configure your project endpoint for Azure AI agent service.
Hold
Right.
on. So just to get things in order. So effectively, this is something that you built beforehand because it's kind of like a bacon show, and you just asked it to build an AI show. What was the prompt you gave it that made it so that it built this?
Yeah. So in agents MD file, I told it to use Azure AI Foundry agent service. So that's what you see here. One second. Let me just quit this. It was in the other agent.
Yeah, let's go to that one. Is that because that is actually really cool, and I'd love to see, because it's not just a question of like typing in a prompt; it's actually the context that you give it to that actually really matters, right?
100%.
Okay, so let's take a look at this so that folks can get a sense for that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I told it, hey, use this backend and use certain front end styles that I have, and for backend agents, I actually told it to use Azure AI Foundry agent service, and the endpoint should be on, and things like that. And then because I configured it with, and you can kind of see here, install Azure AI Agent CLI, and then I configured it with our Learn MCP server, it can go and search on usage of how Foundry SDKs work, right? And then it was able to implement the backend. And by the way, just to kind of show you the backend.
Yeah, I'd love to see the actual the code that it made too.
Maybe I'll for that, I think I'll probably open in code.
Okay, let's do it.
It's better that way. Code. Yeah, it's probably better this way. Here we go. Okay. So I'm running a WSL. That's the problem.
Okay.
So let me just kind of open here in this code. 1 second. Actually, in the interest of time, I'm just going to cat the file.
Yeah, let's just look at one file.
Yeah, let's just look at one file. So let me just go to backend, right? It would be in, let's just do agents client.py.
Let's do it.
Here we go. So if you notice here, here's usage of Azure AI Foundry agent service, right? You can kind of see it has the environment variables that it needs, generate show notes. Here's the agent's client, how it's creating the agent, creating thread for that agent, right? So all of this, I did not tell it to do, right? I just configured it with the MCP server of Learn, and I told it at a very high level in agents.md file, hey, use Azure AI Foundry agent service. So we used a SWE agent, a software engineering agent, like Codex, to create agent.
I mean, this is really cool. And effectively, like, for example, I'm looking at this right now. I'm like, my dev hackles came up. I'm like, oh no, time.sleep. I wonder if I could make this async. I bet I could ask Codex to be like, hey, can you look at this file and make it an async implementation? And it would be able to do something like that too, right?
100%. So I can just spin up Codex right now on this repo. And I'll just, and again, it tries to be secure.
No, that's smart. I like that. Yeah. Like that. I know that went really fast, but it basically was like, hey, are you okay if I work on this or not? And I like that.
Yeah. I'll just say make the backend endpoints async, right? So it's going to, get to work. It's going to first create a plan, and then it's going to, there you go. That's the sort of to-do list, just like a developer. And then it's going to go through each one of those and complete them and iterate with the files, iterate with any MCP tools that it is configured with, etc.
This is so cool.
And
like,
the cool thing is,
as it's working, and I know we were like, I want folks to know this is like real code. Like as we're going through, like these are actual folders and stuff, and the fact that you were able to make something. How long did it take to make the original website?
Yeah, so my part of that was only like maybe 2 minutes, and then it was asynchronously able to do that in probably 10 to 15 minutes.
Oh my gosh!
But here's the thing that I want to highlight, right? Defaults are shifting. I mean, we
Okay.
see this with search, we see this with, and we're seeing that with SDL, software development lifecycle, right? And this is where I think we need to evolve our developer workflows, where we're going to be focused more on the pre-code gen and the post-code gen, which is context engineering. And I didn't do a good job, to be honest with you,
Uh-huh.
because for your new AI show page, I needed to work very closely with you to like understand your pain points, your use cases, etc., and create those MD files, right? And your non-functional requirements, etc., and configure with MCP tools, and then assign to an army of agents to code. I can also use agents to understand the problem, right? And this is where, of course, in this case, we're focusing on OpenAI's Codex with Azure AI Foundry. And then once it's done, it actually can submit a pull request, right? You can take that code and then you have to verify what it did and test it, right? So this is where I have, this is more on how to configure Codex. But in the interest of time, I also want to show that I have another site, and we'll have this in below,
Uh-huh.
called asyncloom.com. And here you can kind of configure with all the other agents that we have on Azure. So you can, for example, in this case, for Codex, you can pick Codex. You can, have your task description. For example, let's say you want Codex to asynchronously run every time a developer submits a commit or has a pull request. For example, adding more unit tests, right?
Right.
And you can get that Azure OpenAI API key, and then you can add this to in your .github folder so that it can run asynchronously in a GitHub
Oh,
Actions
I
running.
see. Okay, so I was confused with that. So this is basically creating a YAML file for a GitHub workflow
Mhm.
so that you can add additional unit tests when you check code in. So that thing that you just showed on the CLI enables you to make Codex do even more work for you on your behalf when you check in. Am I getting this right?
Yeah, that's right. And it doesn't have to run in your process, right? Like right here, it's running on my local process, my local computer. I mean, it is still asynchronous, but this takes it to the next level, like you said. So
Oh my goodness! And the cool thing about this is that, for example, there's unit tests on pull requests that I might not even imagine I need to do.
right.
That Codex can literally just write for me and be like, I found the problem with your pull request using here's a unit test that shows that particular problem. That's really cool.
Yeah, and yeah, exactly. And the thing is that there's also other things that I didn't cover, but you can configure Codex with. And by the way, if you notice, while we're talking, you have two Codex sessions running in parallel, right? One is creating the site from scratch. This other one that's converting to async.
Mhm.
And we can spin up more, but yeah, the other thing that I want to quickly cover is how Codex can be configured with, and it has a ton of knobs. You can go to Codex's main sort of repo if you want, or I'll just show you what I have configured with. And here there's something called config.md file. And you can kind of see all the knobs that you can that it exposes, that you can configure it with. For example, MCP servers was one thing that we saw, but in addition to that, we can give it remote access permissions. So, for example, being able to go on websites and maybe understand about some problem or get recent information before tackling a problem, etc. Right? Or being able to configure the model's reasoning effort. Maybe you don't want to spend more on some tasks like updating changelog MD or something like that.
This is all really cool stuff. So basically, you have an entire here. I'll remove this. You have an entire mini dev in a box helping you get certain tasks done. This is awesome, Govind. Ananya, where can people go to find out more? I know there was a couple of blog posts. Tell us about what's in this blog post that people can look at.
We have the blog post and AKA links where we have described how to use Codex, how to install it, and what are its advantages and where you can use it. So it's great. I think we have another one. So
This one right here.
right here, right. So this shows exactly how you can create agents with it and like how exactly to use Codex.
Well, this has been amazing. We should have you come on again, Govind, sometime soon, and Anya, to maybe show like the next level. I'd love to dive into like the GitHub Action stuff and see some of that in action, because that feels even more super cool. Well, thank you so much for being with us, my friends.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for watching. We've been learning all about Codex-mini, fast, scalable code generation for the CLI era here on the AI Show. Thank you so much for watching, and hopefully we'll see you next time. Take care.